By the
Uh,
way.
Good evening
That's all
and
right.
welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting for January 3rd, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that everybody either mute or turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. And I will ask Rob to do a roll call for attendance, please.
Thank you. Trustee Dahlman,
Here.
Trustee Swerk,
Here.
Trustee Dearborn.
Here.
Trustee Apatow,
Here.
President Rentz.
Here. Okay, item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead us this evening in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Rob, you want to go ahead and do a quorum check?
Sure. For the rest of January, we have the 10th study session and the 17th regular meeting. Any conflicts?
Should be good.
I'll be available. I may be here, but I'll be available. I may be down at Keller, Miami
Okay. On the 10th.
on the 10th.
Okay.
17th.
On the 17th or the both?
I'm good.
17th, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go through the motions here. Public comment, this is the time of the evening when anybody in the audience can speak about an item that is not on tonight's agenda. I don't see anybody in the audience who's not here for agenda-specific items, so I will open and close public comment quickly, and we'll move forward to item 5, which is reports. Trustees, we'll start with Tina. Any report, Tina?
No, I attended the last meeting of the Plan Commission, and there was just the approval of a plat of subdivision, or consolidation, I think it was, yeah. Yeah, so nothing other than that. Thanks.
Great.
No
John.
report?
Bob?
No report, Chris.
Rob?
No report.
No report. Village Attorney?
No report this evening.
For those that are watching at home, we do have a new village attorney this evening. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Peter will be back at your next meeting.
Awesome. Village manager?
Just briefly, before the holidays, staff did a very good job responding to the cold weather and the snow. Snow didn't materialize as much as we thought, but, getting the roads pre-treated ahead of time, they really did a nice job.
They did.
Okay, and village president, I have no report this evening. Item 6, approval of the agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove an item on the agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 7 is the consent agenda. I'll ask the village clerk to read the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Approval of Village Council minutes for December 6, 2022 regular meeting and December 13th, 2022 study session. Approval of the warrant list dated December 1st, 2022 through December 15th, 2022 in the amount of $992,415.16. Resolution number R01-2023 approving a contract extension advanced tree care for tree pruning, removal, and restoration. Resolution number R02-2023 approving a contract extension Save a Tree for emergency time and material tree work. Resolution number R4-2023 approving a contract with Menazell Engineering Corp. for thermography services. Resolution number R5-2023 awarding a contract to Intech Services Incorporated for wood pole inspection services. Resolution number R7-2023 awarding a contract to WEG Transformers USA LLC for 300 kVA pad mount transformer. Resolution number R08-2023 approving an agreement with Phoenix Fire Systems for the design and installation of a fire protection system for the South Road Center. And resolution number R9-2023 approving a joint funding agreement for the Willow Road project.
Thank you, Rob. All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Swerk,
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn.
Yes.
Trustee Apatow.
Yes.
That motion carries. Okay, moving on to the meat of the evening. Ordinances and resolutions. Item A is ordinance number MC01-2023, sign code amendments. Council will be considering proposed amendments to the village code regarding the village's design guidelines concerning sign regulations. If you all remember, we had this up here a while ago, and David went back and did some work, and now has some suggestions for how to modify our codes.
Yes, so in October, we had a study session in which the council received a very thorough presentation on the proposed recommendations from the Design Review Board. So I'm not going to go over those again with you tonight. But just to say, the idea is that with these amendments, staff will be able to administratively approve certain window signs. If a business or another applicant wants to do something other than those, they'll have to go through the Design Review Board. And we have amended the variation standards to make them a little more appropriate, so that if someone wants to vary from those standards, they'll go before the Design Review Board and make that request. There was one change you requested at that study session, and that was to allow someone to request a variation to be able to paint a sign directly on a building or on a fence, and that change has been made and added to the ordinance amendment. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for David?
David, what is the practical process for this approval? So someone submits it, who would review the sign approval, the request, the ordinance, et cetera, et cetera? Would it be you? Would it be a group of people once a week, or how is this approved, practically
Sure.
speaking?
So the standards at which staff uses are pretty black and white. They either comply or don't. And so we have a staff person on staff who will review those sign permit applications. And hopefully we generally will work with applicants before they submit, so they have an idea of whether or not they'll have to go before the Design Review Board, or if staff would be able to administratively approve their signs.
Okay, so there's one person that
Yes.
goes.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
and generally, if they have a question on how to apply the ordinance, there's a group of planners in the department that will get together and go over it.
Okay, good, good.
Others?
Quick question. So I think generally this makes sense. I guess if you were doing an informal review, are most of the shops, retail stores in compliance? What percent aren't? Do we ever go and say, hey, this is just not?
So as we mentioned during the study session, is that we have identified some businesses that are not in compliance, but knowing that the Design Review Board was interested in considering some amendments, we have waited to put off enforcement till we determine what exactly our window sign regulations are going to be.
Okay.
Once the council adopts this, we'll reach out to those businesses who have put up signs without permits and work with them to come into compliance.
Okay.
So what will that look like? I mean, are we gonna have to go to some of those businesses and say, take your sign down and put in a compliance sign? And, is that gonna be a significant cost for some of these businesses?
Well, we are talking generally about vinyl applied signs
Okay.
to windows, what we're talking about in this instance. They can also always come and request a variation most of the issues in compliance have to deal with size of the sign. And so they could make a request for a variation. We had identified a business and they had come before the Design Review Board for variation. This was in 2019, 2020, beginning of the pandemic, maybe 2021. And the Design Review Board struggled granting the variation given their standards that they were to apply at that time. Now, if that request came, based on how our standards are now written for granting variations, I think they would feel more comfortable in granting some of those requests.
Yeah, I'm not looking to take out a ruler and bust people at all, but I do, who's just getting out of control, it's just not fair. And it just looks like hell. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I think you guys use pretty good discretion, but it needs to be reined in. I hope you guys will. That's good.
No, I think it's a good revision to the ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay, no public for public comment that I can discern. Any comments or discussions at this point? Hopefully not, okay. The only thing I wanted to say about this was that, you know, we have to walk that fine line because for so long, we were identified by the business community as a municipality that always finds its way to no.
Right.
And a lot of what we're trying to do here is to change that mindset so that we are more inviting and more business friendly. And, you know, and I think some of these modifications will do that. But even in the event of somebody running afoul, I think the idea is to really, you know, treat them as somebody who simply made a mistake, or didn't understand the rules, and gently herd them back, because we've worked so hard to start to build a really good street cred, if you will, with our businesses. And boy, I would hate to lose that over something as simple as a sign. So, but I think we did a lot of good work on this, and definitely the DRB did, so kudos to them.
Yeah.
All right.
Quick question. Can this be adopted too, or is that not possible?
It's just listed on your agenda this evening.
It'll be on consent next time, Joe.
Yeah, okay, that was my next point.
Yeah.
If not, consent is fine.
Yeah, we won't have to
Thanks.
see it again.
Yeah, and
Okay.
typically municipal code changes are to read.
Okay, good.
Okay, so can I have a motion to, or may I have a motion to introduce ordinance number MC 01-2023?
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries, thank you. Moving along, item B is ordinance number M1-2023. Wait a minute. Is that right? What did I just read? Oh, MC1. By the time I get this government stuff down to a science, it'll be definitely time for me to leave, so. All right, this is ordinance number M1-2023, authorizing the disposition of surplus personal property owned by the Village of Winnetka. Village staff is proposing to dispose of different materials and equipment that have reached the end of their useful lives and are no longer necessary or useful to the village. Water and Electric Director Brian Keys is here this evening to review that. Hey, Brian.
Thank you for the introduction. Happy New Year, everybody.
Same to you.
Happy New Year.
So as introduced by Village President Renz, I'm before you to present what we, I guess, would call the annual disposal ordinance to get to dispose of surplus personal property, which is basically items that are end of life, have failed, not reusable, and the staff is recommending disposal of. There's two facets to the disposal ordinance. One is from an operating department perspective. This gives the village manager authority for us to dispose of personal property throughout 2023. In my case, it's failed electrical equipment, scrap cable, old meters, whether water or electric, and scrap metal. On a more direct listing, as included in your agenda report, or the exhibit to the ordinance, is actually specific items, which includes vehicles, a loader backhoe, some office furniture, some older equipment, and former AV equipment from the village hall would be disposed of under the village manager's authority. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or seek you to consider introducing this. And with an introduction, hopefully I can come back on a consent agenda for the adoption next meeting.
Thanks.
Nice plug.
Any questions for Brian?
I have no questions.
So Rob, did you get to replace your refrigerator?
My refrigerator.
That was on the list.
That's
Oh, that one.
the village
yeah, well, the one
village
he's been hiding in the corner of
village
his
manager's
office.
office is working on that one.
I have no refrigerator in my office. Thank you, really.
Okay, no questions?
No.
You can tell I've been in the house too much, I'm sorry.
You have.
Okay, no public comment, we had our comments. May I have a motion to introduce number M1-2023?
So moved.
Second?
Voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, thank you.
Got mine on that 2006 Ranger.
Huh?
Yeah, what the-
There was a couple of light bars that looked really cool too, so.
desk chair. It's actually a very good desk chair.
Those would look really good on my truck, don't you think?
That's
thinking maybe there was a way to work that into a retirement set off for Chief Hornstein.
Forget those stupid signs. I want a light bar on my truck.
Yeah, I like that too.
Okay. Not on to more serious business. Item C, streetscape Phase 5 design. Jody Mariani, sorry, Jody. Joey Mariano is here this evening from Tesca, along with David, to present the final design for the proposed Phase 5 of streetscape. Oh, Jim's doing it, I'm sorry.
I'm smaller. Oh, slightly smaller. We normally get confused.
I can tell.
Happy New Year, everyone, and good evening. So as a quick recap, so in June of last year, Village Council approved a resolution to award a contract for design services to Ciorba Group and Tesca and Associates to assist in the construction documents and the plan that we'll be presenting to you this evening. We'll be presenting the final design based on comments and discussions that we've had with staff. Upon completion of our presentation, staff will be looking for direction from the Village Council on the overall approval of the design, authorization to proceed with going out to bid, which we hope to do this week in conjunction with the annual street rehab program, and then also directing staff to go ahead and move forward and start seeking proposals for those long lead time items like Sternberg's, the benches, things that you've seen in the past. So with me this evening is Jody Mariano from Tesca and Associates. Jody's been involved with the design of the streetscape projects since Phase 1. There's nobody who knows this project better than her. So Jody's going to be presenting to you the overall design tonight, and with that, I'll pass it on over to Jody.
Great, thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, we're happy to share the Phase 5 streetscape presentation this evening. So these are some familiar views to you all, I'm sure, but I'm going to get into the scope, but just some kind of key features of the streetscape that's out there today. We have the bump out at the top left of the slide here. This is the southwest corner of Lincoln and Elm. We have a lot of stuff in this intersection, and we want to hang on to the bus shelter and the mailbox for sure, but then we're going to have other things that we're going to be repositioning, and I'll show you some images of what that would look like. And those include things like we see here, the Fell Memorial, the bronze donor sign, and plantings. Down at Arborvitae Park, which is the eastern terminus of our project, we have Park District property, signage, plantings, benches, and pathway that would be protected, but then we're going to be addressing things like uneven pavements, ADA crossings, and other streetscape features in that bump out. And then for the length of Elm Street, as you see on the right-hand side of the screen, we're primarily focused on the north side of the street, but we have to address things like uneven pavements. We're going to be removing some poor quality trees and replacing them with good quality trees. We're going to provide some bike storage and continue the lighting scheme that we have throughout the other 4 phases of work. So working from the bottom up, this is our study area. We're focused here on Elm Street between Lincoln Avenue and Arborvitae Road. We're primarily working on the north side of the street, but there is a water main replacement project that is going to happen as part of this work, and that is shown here with the blue line and the blue W. The water main would extend from Lincoln Avenue all the way to Maple Street. And then the electrical work is shown in red. That would extend along Elm Street on the north side between the alleyway just east of Hometown Juice up to Arborvitae Road. And then the streetscape work shown with the S is also on the north side between the alleyway and Arborvitae Road. That would be asphalt roadway, curb, sidewalk, all the streetscape furnishings and features. And then a couple of bump outs. And those bump outs are at that southwest corner where the bus stop is today, and also on the east side of Arborvitae Road, just to complete the pedestrian crossing and make it a safe crossing there. So again, our project area is zoomed in a little bit. We just came off of the Phase 4 work along Lincoln Avenue, and that's shown here in the air photo. And so you can see where the project terminated in front of Hometown Juice at the alley. The purpose of this work is to complete that section all the way to Arborvitae Road. There will be no change to the overall width of the roadway or the sidewalk. The curbs generally will stay in their same location, but it'll just be replaced with higher quality materials. So that green box at the north side extends across Arborvitae Road, and then we also have that southwest corner where the bus stop is at Lincoln and Elm. Here is a plan that shows the existing conditions out there today. And again, our streetscape areas are highlighted with the green boxes. But just to highlight the parking that we have out there, we have 14 spaces out there today. A space means a 9-foot wide by 18-foot long space, and 2 spaces are dedicated for a handicap parking spot. The proposed parking would generally be the same. In working with our engineering partners at Suorba, they found a little bit of savings in space that we were able to just kind of very slightly shift some line work over a little bit, the parking striping line work, and accommodate some bump outs, but still keep the same amount of parking. So I'll show you what that looks like. Before I do, existing trees. So we have 4 trees exist out there today. They are all 4 struggling. We've worked with the forester to look at them, and we and the forestry department agree that the trees are in poor condition. A lot of them are root bound. There are some that have lost their central leaders and their canopies. So definitely a good opportunity to replace them with higher quality trees with structural soil to give them a fighting chance of survival. Those 4 trees would be removed and replaced with new trees. There are 3 trees at Arborvitae Park. There would be no construction in those areas, but they've been identified to be protected. So the proposed enhancement plan, and just as a reminder, we had 4 existing trees. Those would be removed and replaced with 6 proposed trees in the streetscape. Our proposed plan here includes the asphalt roadway, curbs, sidewalks, and crosswalks on the roadway side, the water main work that I just mentioned, and then also underground electrical work to support the vehicular and pedestrian lighting, also holiday tree lighting in the tree pits. And then the streetscape includes the new tree plantings, roadway and pedestrian lights, as I mentioned, some site furnishings, and I'll show you an enlargement of what those things look like in the bump outs. So here are some bump outs and amenities plans. On the left-hand side, you can see our bump out where the bus shelter is at Lincoln and Elm. As you may recall, the shape of the planter that's out there today kind of hugs one bench. The intent of this is to open it up more and make it more welcoming for more people to have a place to sit. And so what we've shown here is a seat wall planter that can provide more seating, just like we have across the street at Hometown Juice and Honeycomb. We have those 2 donor features. So the bronze donor sign is shown in the center. It's mounted in grade, but it would be visible from both sides and sort of accessible that way. And then the wood memorial is shown in that second orange box to the south. We've got the roadway light highlighted here. We've got lit bollards at this bump out. We've also got space for 3 bike racks. At the center image, that's the bump outs near the alley. Those are just bump outs that kind of help hem in where the on-street parking goes. We've got space for trash and recycling and bike racks, just like we have at the other sections of streetscape, and of course decorative brick paving. And then in the bump out near Arborvitae Road, we do have an existing sign that's out there today. That sign will be removed. And what will get put back in its place is a stone seat wall / curb planter, just like we have at Hometown Juice. And then we have unlit bollards, so they will be the same bollards but not lighted. And then our ADA ramps and decorative paving. That sign for the park is up there just underneath where it says Arborvitae Park. Some photo examples of the furnishings, and I know you guys are all familiar with these things, but essentially we're repeating the same things into this streetscape so it ties in with the rest of the 4 phases. The proposed trees, and working with the forester, we've identified these tree species to be installed in the new tree pits. And then the understory plantings, these would be placed in the bump outs in the green spaces, very similar to what we've used in other parts of the streetscape. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jim.
Thanks, Jody. Just to highlight a couple quick things here. So the water main work, although we're proposing the limits of reconstruction that it shows from Lincoln Avenue going to Maple, as you may recall, that water main work we did as part of the Phase 3 project actually got us past the intersection and right to the alley there. So we're actually not going to be in the intersection of Lincoln. We will be east of that alley is where we'll be picking up the stub that we had left and then heading east towards Sheridan Road. So as you saw, this project unto itself is a little unique for us. It's smaller in scope as it relates to streetscape, but there's a lot of water main work that's proposed. And you may recall as part of some of those budget discussions that we had talked about extending and replacing a high priority main for Brian Keeston Water Department that extends all the way from primarily that stub we left on Lincoln Avenue all the way to Sheridan Road. So that project is proposed as part of the street rehab program, which I'll be bringing back to you at the February 7th meeting. So in this case, the work will be taking place to extend that water main as part of the streetscape from basically from the stub on Lincoln Avenue, just east of Lincoln Avenue to Maple. And then the street rehabilitation program will pick it up from Maple and take it all the way to Sheridan. So that's the kind of the uniqueness. Because you have two separate contracts, we're proposing to bid these contracts at the same time. Now, this quarter, as you all are familiar with, it's a high priority, especially for festival areas. We have the Memorial Day Parade, the 4th of July Parade. So to ensure that the work that takes place is contiguous and is seamless with the street rehab program, staff is proposing not to start in early spring, but to wait until July 10th, which would be after the 4th of July, after the parades have been completed. Finish this up within 8 to 10 weeks for the streetscape component completely. But during the same time, once the water main gets to the intersection of Elm and Maple, the contractor for the street rehab program would take it off and continue to go east. It's our belief that this will be cause for a more seamless project. There'll be less disturbance for the businesses. The contractor can drop back, work on streetscape items as the water main is continuing east, and we'll be able to clean up the roadways at one time. Our goal is to resurface Elm Street all the way from the just east of the intersection of Lincoln Avenue all the way to Sheridan Road. So this will beautify the entire corridor all the way through. That's primarily the big change for this year's program and why we're seeking to bid the contracts at the same time. We anticipate that based on the volatility of the market right now, we're not sure what kind of prices we're going to get. So we think by bidding these together, it'll help us out getting better prices for that. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Jim or Jody?
Jody, can I ask you some questions about the plan?
Yes, of course.
So on the 3 bump outs,
Yeah.
first off, the bump out at Arborvitae, that's on the east side? Because I don't really see how, on the east side, I don't see that change in here.
So the bump out that has all the stuff in it is,
Yeah.
is this one here on the west side.
Are you doing anything on the east side?
No, well, what we are doing on the east side is we're replacing the paving and we're adding a detectable warning and a crosswalk.
Okay.
But there's no other streetscape
The
work
brickwork.
happening here.
The brickwork, yeah.
The brickwork, yeah.
So does the bump out on the west side there, does that change in size? I asked David if it comes out to the south. He
No.
said no. but
That's
does-
existing today. So here's an air photo
Yeah.
that shows. Yeah. So no change to the location of the curves.
Okay, so the bump out, this just has
Yeah.
more elements to it.
That's correct.
Okay, and the trees, kind of disappointed on the trees. I mean, I look at those trees and they're pretty good sized trees. Are you planning on replacing those with similar sized trees as we had on Lincoln? Is that the idea?
Yeah. So when we put trees in the tree grates in the sidewalks, we are limited. We've had this discussion lots, I know, with President Rins. We are limited with the ball size that can fit in the tree pit, and so we're all working on a very narrow right of way, of course. And so the biggest size tree that we can successfully plant in a sidewalk is really 3-inch caliper.
Hey.
And the reason for that, though, is that there have been lots of research that looks at what does a 3-inch tree that gets installed, how does that grow compared to a 5-inch tree, for instance? And when the tree gets installed at a younger size, it takes much better, and it has a much better survival rate. Now, when we have trees in large bump outs, like the ones in front of Hometown Juice, those are not constrained in a sidewalk planter. They don't have a tree grate around it, and so those usually go in at 5-inch caliper. And so that's larger when that goes in because it's in a big open planting area. But when we are in a tree pit environment, like in these 6 trees cases in the sidewalks, 3-inch caliper really is the right size to make sure that those trees have good health when
Are
they
the
get
3
built.
inches, are those similar to the size that were planted on the west side of Elm in front of the bank and so on?
On the west side of
So as you,
Elm.
or go west on Elm over Green Bay, when we did
Oh.
that streetscape,
Yeah, those
little
are 3-inch caliper. Yeah, so 3
Wow.
inches measured, like, you know,
No,
it's,
Jody, those were not 3-inch calipers on.
they might have been smaller.
What were those, Chris?
Those were skinny little
Those were
twigs.
sprigs. They're like
No,
sprigs.
and if you remember, that's when I blew a gasket, and all of a sudden the trees started growing in the subsequent phases.
Lincoln, if you look at Lincoln north of Elm,
Yeah.
those were 3
Yeah.
inches.
Are those 3 inches? Okay,
Yeah,
those
those
were more substantial.
They were.
Yeah, and the 3 inches measured, it's a caliper. It's like measured, you know, at your chest height when you're standing in front of the tree.
Okay, so it's similar, if you walked down Lincoln today and you saw those, that's kind of what someone could expect 2 years hence.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, and if we planted a 5-inch caliper and a 3-inch caliper, and then look 2 years out, the 5-inch is going to be stunted, and the 3-inch will be growing, and we're going to be, you know, as we talked about, providing a much more healthful soil environment for these guys by putting in the structural soils, and so it really is the right size to put
Okay.
in.
And the bump out at the corner of Lincoln
Mhm.
and Elm, how does that change in size and scope?
So the overall size doesn't change. I'll get back to the air photo just to
Okay.
compare. So it's all covered by trees. Hang on. Let me get to something else. All right, so this is the existing survey drawing, and so this
Okay.
shows the bump out today. And you can see there's sort of like those 2 Mickey Mouse ears that kind of, you know, hem in where that bench is today. The overall shape where the curb is around the perimeter of the bump out, that doesn't change, but the insides change so that we can provide more space for people to sit and walk around. We can't, of course, change the bus shelter. We don't want to.
Right.
But you can see existing here and proposed, what we've done is we've expanded the sidewalk area and we've provided a pretty good linear footage of masonry seat walls. So we've got more places for people to sit. So, you know, ideally if somebody grabbed a snack at Hometown Juice and couldn't get a place to sit there, then there would be more spaces to sit on this corner.
Okay, and you mentioned that the sign, I'm sorry, Chris, to take the time here, but you mentioned the sign on the Arborvitae bump out is gonna go. And Chris, we talked about some other signs along that stretch.
Yes, I've been a little incapacitated.
No, I
in
know, but
order
those,
to-
I assume we'll be
Yeah.
reviewing those as well.
Yeah,
As part of this.
Rob and I have to do a drive around.
Okay.
and it's been kind of
Yeah.
bumped several times. so.
Okay, I mean, they'll get blocked by the trees anyway. And if I can just mention, and this is not part of this, but it's kind of a safety thing there, if you drive, so I'm on this picture you have, Jody, and you're going west on Elm Street,
Yeah.
and you get to the intersection. Now, if there are pedestrians that are going from Phototronics across the street there to Hometown,
Down here.
you can't really see them very well.
If
As a
they're
pede-
crossing across
If they're
the elm.
crossing the crosswalk there,
Mhm.
and you're in that lane, you can't really see them all that well. And if you check that out, so I don't know in the future if that can be addressed, if that crosswalk,
This crosswalk here.
correct.
Yeah, for,
They
you're
wanna-
talking about people that are walking from this
Correct.
bump out.
Yeah, they're behind the driver,
Sure.
basically.
Sure.
Oh, God.
And so, and it's,
Yeah.
it's not that, so I don't know if, as you go forward, if we ever have any kind of development here, maybe that's something to be,
No, that's good.
thinking
That's very
about.
helpful. Thank you. You know, as you know, we haven't addressed this section where the development is anticipated to be in the future, but
right.
that is definitely something that we should all keep in mind. It's a good
Yeah,
point.
but the point you just brought up though is no different than Honeycomb going the other direction.
It is a
It's a
little,
very-
it's a
it's a
little different,
little
John.
different
It's a
angle.
little different. Yeah, if you
Little
drive
bit.
it, you'll notice it, yeah.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just because of the ankles, but
Yeah.
that one is particularly,
Okay.
particularly dangerous, potentially.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
that's all I
only
have.
thing you could do on there, possibly,
Yeah.
when you do that corner over, you might have an opportunity to stick it out further, but you
And-
still gotta be able to make that right turn. So it might be tough because of the angle of Lincoln.
You may just have to change where
Yeah.
the crosswalk goes into home.
And I would think the lighting will help with that when the new lighting gets installed, but
It's held at night. I mean,
thinking about.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not worried
thank you.
about it at night. There's not many people there at night.
Right. Okay, that's all I had.
Tina?
So, oh, it's on. So at one point, the water main was going to be part of One Winnetka, right? And so we're taking that on as a benefit to the developer, because that was one of the major infrastructure projects that was, part of their project.
Yeah, so we actually had a conversation with the developer for One Winnetka, and currently they're fed off of the water main on Elm Street. They are choosing to no longer be fed on there, so we're not reconnecting them. They're going to feed off of Lincoln Avenue, so that will be the time where the main is a little bit larger, and they'll just feed off of that site, so they won't be reconnecting to that, so they
Okay.
don't get a benefit out of that.
And given the timing of this project, and because it was
Yeah.
such on the high priority list, we felt like we couldn't wait any longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then are there any other, and so the street improvements to the south, I would assume the streetscape improvements would be a conditional of approval for that. Are there any other infrastructure, is there sewer in there that would have to be redone, or just water, it looks like?
Just
And-
water and electric.
Just water right now, yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
My other question was the alley by the inspection stucco. Is that a functional alley?
It actually is, it is. They, I believe they take deliveries back in that one corner through there.
Okay.
I was wondering the same thing.
Because it
Close it off.
doesn't look one of those alleys doesn't look very functional, and I was wondering if there's but if it is functional, that ends
Yeah.
the story. But you could get more parking there, or
right.
a bigger bump
That's
out
a good point.
midpoint.
Could you flip back to the aerial view?
It's weird, because it looks like the building obscures it. I don't know.
Hmm.
You see how,
Yeah, can you make it a walking, just shut it down?
Yeah, they must get back into here somehow.
yeah, but how do you, is there parking there? I didn't walk back there.
Does it go through or do you
It is
have to
used.
back out?
Yeah, it
I
is.
wish I could enlarge it.
What's this one? Does that help us?
No, the other one's actually cleaner.
I don't
it does
know.
look
It
though
just-
like you can kind of see where, oh, you're talking about the
No,
other.
she's
it's
talking
Yeah, the other one.
Further east.
Yeah,
here.
It doesn't look very wide or
No, it's
functional.
not.
No, you could see it actually kind of.
There
it's
you
a-
see
It's
it.
a drive lane that goes into the back part through there.
So it's just accessing the
It's-
back
it's
building.
correct,
It's not,
yeah.
the alley doesn't continue on beyond.
That's correct. It just goes straight back.
But is it parking back there?
I believe it's delivery back there, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say there's.
For what?
I could check. I believe there's refuse containers back there as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's refuse collection in that back part.
Or maybe for the residential above? Yeah. Okay.
But the
It-
refuse truck isn't gonna go back there.
No, I mean, it only looks like it's 8 feet. It doesn't look
They'll
very
wheel
wide.
them out, most
Yeah.
likely
Yes,
they'll wheel them
yeah.
out, but most likely it was designed to accommodate the storage for those buildings that are just to the east of the
Yeah.
of the lane.
I don't know. It occurred to me that we should verify that. Those are the only questions I had.
So, Tina's question about this water main, that was one of my questions, I think resolved. So, how about stormwater from One Winnetka? Will they also go out Lincoln somehow? Do we know? I just hate to resurface the whole street.
Well, originally there was a
Go
vault.
ahead.
Yeah, but any destruction to the roadway would be evaluated as part of their plan submittal, whether they put
Yeah.
detention, where they're going to put detention, how they're going to get their stormwater out. If they disturb a certain component, they'd be required to resurface that section
Yeah,
of roadway
okay.
anyways.
And are we concerned about resurfacing this and all the construction for One Winnetka, the damage to the road and,
I'm more concerned about making sure that those businesses have the best possible opportunity to survive and maintain and
Okay.
induce people down the street, more so than
Right, okay.
chewed up pavement.
Well, because that was one of the issues. We needed to replace the water main to provide enough pressure for the fire suppression in some of those, like that vacant building. I don't know what that building was. It's been vacant as long as I've lived
Right,
here. Was it a stationery store? Was it?
Which one was that?
No, but I remember that was part of the engineering proposal early on, like one of the first One Winnetka
Yeah,
iterations.
I want to say though, I think we are providing enlarged stubs to those businesses
Right.
for enhanced
Right.
fire protection and service.
Right.
Right, and we're probably going into the building at that point, right?
Correct.
Because it's the whole lead deal could be a possibility there too.
Yeah. Brian, he
It's a
left.
domino.
Brian's got that, but yes, that's correct.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's why it's important not to wait any longer.
Okay, all right. That's all I had.
Could you go back to that Arborvitae Park picture?
This one? Or the actual picture?
Yeah. There it is.
Oh, I had one.
What are those things you're consolidating, like those big metal grates that are stuck in the middle of the?
Oh,
those-
these down here,
What are those?
those are handholds.
Yeah, those are handholds, electrical handholds.
Okay, so they have to be separate and they have to be, okay.
It's
That's
a whole.
right,
Where all the stuff is.
Okay. I
But,
looked at,
I mean,
Can't.
not that I'm trying to
you
make
can-
Arborvitae any
There's enough to
prettier,
go
but.
When the streetscape gets put back, though, we won't have the differential in elevation between paving and handle. Everything will be much more smooth and clean and easier to navigate.
Okay, all right. Couple things. I again had Tina start out with the alley. There's a way to make that parking and sidewalk versus kind of that ugly alley, just or something. I don't know what it is, but you guys know better than me.
Well, if it's an alley, it's probably deeded on someone's property as an alley.
For
to the
access.
street, so.
It is I mean, it can be still walking access versus driving. It's so narrow.
It is very.
Yeah, looks like there's dumpsters back there. I mean, it's no different than the alley next to La Taqueriza to the south, that little alley.
Well, that's a full, you can
I
park
know,
a
but still,
car
it's
in
also
that.
very, well, I think it's far enough to get a car in here
I
too. though.
don't, I go to that's
Yeah.
my dentist, and I walk through there,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this doesn't look standard.
There's
Like, I
another-
bet the little,
There's another narrow alley on North Lincoln on the east side that
Yeah.
looks a lot like this
Yeah.
one. And they're used. I mean, just
Is
spaces
it
at
a
premium
through?
there.
Is it a through alley?
no.
We have to
No.
back out.
Looks like there's a
None
little
of them are
turnaround
through
back
turnaround.
in there.
There's a turnaround.
I need to
None of
hang
them
out
that
in the
are
alleys
through
more
are
here.
through alleys.
I'll get out there with my measuring tape.
Okay.
I won't measure signs, but I'll measure the alley.
So, a couple things. I think overwhelmingly positive. The only kind of negatives I've heard that I want to sure how to be addressed. I think the bump outs aren't a big deal because it's the vertical parking versus the horizontal where you have to back in. I think that's where some of the problems. A bunch of blown out tires up here at the across from Pete's, and where
Yeah.
people have to kind of park and then jog out, and that's been getting some heat from from overwhelmingly positive comments. I think some of the other thoughts are on the bollards. The number I haven't seen so many bollards since I think the Washington Monument has that many bollards. So I'm just curious, and having unlit bollards, why are we doing more bollards?
Why are we having unlit
No,
bollards?
yeah, in general.
Oh, sure. Why are we? Wait, I'm sorry. What's the
Well,
question?
you're putting. I understand we're trying to match the bollards that are there, that are lit. But between the bollards and the planters and the signs, there are certain corners that have so much infrastructure on them. That's what I'm getting.
Are you
that's
seeing
what-
that here, Rob?
That's what I'm wondering.
Go to the,
Sure, I can
you
go.
stripped this down quite a bit.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I can get to the.
That's true.
So in this plan, there are no proposals to add any of the precast concrete planters in this Phase 5 streetscape. The only things that we have shown at the edges are the bollards, and then we've got light poles, of course. And so here, I can just point them out. Here at Lincoln and Elm, this is the bus shelter. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lit bollards. And then at the Arborvitae bump out, we've got 1, 2, 3 bollards. I mean, generally, they're not lit.
Yeah.
They're unlit. Sorry.
The ones at Arborvitae are not lit. They're there for aesthetics part because it was close to the residential areas. I mean, they're not lit. Only the intersections.
I said no. It's better to
Protective
do
boundary.
without them. I just at some point.
And I can just to follow up, Trustee Swerk would remember because we worked on the master streetscape plan back in, I think, 2018. The purpose of the bollards and the planters in other parts of downtown is to provide a place to demarcate where pedestrians can safely cross, and also to provide some buffering between where pedestrians are on the sidewalk and the roadway beyond. So they provide that function, and yes, in this Phase 5 streetscape, we're matching the vocabulary that we have elsewhere, minus the precast concrete planters.
Yeah,
But I understand your comment. Definitely noted.
I also think they also serve, like, you see scooters, you know, leaning up against them. You know, they're not, it's just like, they also are catching strollers and other things that are just, that aren't being parked at the bike racks.
But the people who own the buggies and the like feel very good about the fact that the bollards are there because it's providing some
No, I know,
protection.
and they're parking their things there,
Right.
like and so it's.
It's like an organizer.
I know you guys do, and I know some people don't like them, but I think they're such an integrated part of the plan at this point.
Oh, yeah, I'm not looking to.
Jody's worked
yeah.
really hard to strip them down to the bare essentials. You know, I don't think 3 at Arborvitae is excessive.
It adds architecture to the bump outs that, hey, okay, down, you're kind of entering the downtown. It's all starting to look the same.
But we have a big giant sign that says that too, right,
Yes,
Bob?
we do. We need more sign. No doubt you're going downtown.
Right,
You
right.
got a big ass sign that lets you know you're in downtown, but
We need a few more.
In East Winnetka downtown.
Are we gonna light those up?
And this bump out really is sort of, to Trustee Swerk's point, this is the first kind of, you know, welcome to downtown kind of feature. So it's
Yeah.
the right place to have, you know, the streetscape elements.
Or if you
really
are
fit.
standing there, you still feel like you're somewhat on a paved area and not the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my last question would be, any learnings you've had, you know, how are the brick pavers holding up? Is there anything that you are looking at saying, we probably should either upgrade or should do something a little different based
So-
on the wear and tear and what's going on?
The brick pavers that have been installed as part of this streetscape are an upgrade from what was done beforehand. I mean, what was done beforehand was brick pavers installed on a gravel and sand base, which is why everything's kind of
Right.
rocking and rolling out there. But these are all installed on a concrete
Right.
base, so we're essentially building a sidewalk and then brick paving on top. And to what I've seen, they seem to be performing very well. Do you have anything else?
Yeah,
You're comfortable?
there's been no settlement issues like we had previously with
Right.
the concrete ones. Very few crack components with it. Everything seems to be holding up good. The biggest thing is just trying to keep the salt off of them. We really encourage the local businesses that are front where these pavers are at to try not to use road salt on them, because then we have to go back and Public Works has to come and power wash them and get all that effervescence component off. Because it's clay, it's hard, but it's still a porous material.
So the salt will tear them apart. Okay.
well, and the other good thing is Public Works is now using softer equipment,
That's correct.
so they're not smashing it with the street plows.
Yeah.
So now they're using soft equipment, and it should help make it last a little bit longer. And if we could get Neapolitan to stop putting all that salt out in front of they're the worst offender. I mean, they're shoveling it out in buckets and just raking it out on the street, and it shows too. You know, and I stuck my head in and asked them once, and didn't get quite a good response. So I figured I'd let you guys do it.
That's because you weren't buying anything, Chris. So no,
Good point. And you're
no
right.
other maintenance issues, trees, grates, that,
The trees seem to be performing really well.
Yeah, I think we only, from all the phases that we've done so far to date, I think we've only replaced just a couple of trees, one because one got hit by a vehicle. And the rest of them, I think it was a warranty component, but because we've got the 1-year warranty, we come back the next year and the forester goes out and takes a look at them, and if they're not healthy, we pull the warranty, we
Okay.
swap them out real quick. If they're holding up well, we add the additional nutrients to it, and they've been doing great.
okay, and you're addressing the sign thing separately, so that's good.
And as long as the maintenance items are brought up, I know it's hard, like, I hang out at Hometown way too much. But
We've heard.
Hometown
from the
junkie.
from the, and maybe Jim has heard about this too, it's like, from the door of the Hometown along Elm to those planters, there's bird baths of water that sit on the pavers.
On the pavers, so
I know
it's
it's
not draining properly?
not a lot of drainage slope, so maybe keep that in mind. And you know, and if you want not to use salt, now's the time where it's going to pile tons of salt
Yep.
because it is icy. So I'm not sure how you fix that now, or keep in mind in
No, that's
future
good to know.
phases, future
I mean,
phase.
You know, our engineering partners on this project are, you know, working to provide positive drainage so
Yeah.
that the facades and the
Yeah.
entryways are the highest point. Everything is designed to sheet
Right.
flow out, but
Right.
we'll take a look at
Yeah,
it.
when it rains, it's probably 3/4 of an inch in some spots.
That's not good,
Yeah,
especially
one
in cold weather.
One of the lessons learned was connecting up the downspouts to the buildings. Before it was a coordinated effort with the buildings to do that. At the time that Hometown was being built, the decision was not to connect them.
Yeah.
Even though prices were presented
Right.
for the building, they opted not to do
Yeah.
that. It definitely has positive drainage, so it gets to a certain point and goes. And when we did phase 4 last year, we hooked up every building downspout directly to the source,
Yeah.
and you see a huge difference.
Because that's a big area of pavers.
Yeah.
Even without the downspouts.
You should just look at it.
I'll look at it. I don't think there's any where the downspouts are. It's like right out their front door.
Yep, they have one at the corner and one right around.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, we talked to them about that after.
Okay. Good.
I had one thought, and I'm not looking to spend any more money, but one thing that's been mentioned to me by several residents is, and I'm sitting here looking at it right now, is our bus shelters.
No, that's was exactly what I was gonna say. Can we improve the bus shelter?
Because I've heard more about the one on the other end of Elm over by Washburn,
Yeah,
because that thing is just disgusting.
yeah.
But this is the exact same shelter.
It just isn't bad. It looks
And,
like from 1970s.
You know, we're doing all this beautiful stuff, and then we end up with this 1970s anodized aluminum bubble topped.
But it's not falling apart.
No, but we made fun of the you know, how
But that's why it took us
Chicago-
20 years to get Streetscape going in the first place, John, because it wasn't falling apart enough.
All right. All right.
And I'm not saying to throw it into the budget, because what does a nice bus shelter cost of this size?
They range,
100?
and we've seen all sorts of great whiz-bang things, but
No,
yeah, they
you
could
know
be,
what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
sure. And you know, we've had conversations with Pace about similar types of things, and they're willing to have those types of discussions, and so it's definitely worth a discussion
Oh.
with them. I mean, it's
If we're willing to pay.
exactly right.
Yes.
Or we're willing to have their newer bus shelters with ads.
Yeah, and there's a maintenance agreement too that you also maintaining it. That's right.
Do you have to provide a shelter?
It's not,
I mean, do people use this bus stop that much?
actually,
Actually,
this one not as much, but definitely, I mean,
Oh,
and it's
for
not just
sure.
the kids either, I mean.
No, I know. Yeah, the one down by
I've never
Washburn.
seen anybody.
Good point, Tina. Do we even need a bus shelter here?
Right. I've never seen anybody in that shelter.
Can you create just
I
a
do know that,
cover?
I do know we did reach out to Pace about this one, and they wanted to keep the shelter that was there. The good part is though,
Who
it's
did?
the concrete
I'm sorry,
pad.
who did?
Pace.
Pace?
Can you speak in the mic, Jim?
Sorry. Yeah, we did speak to Pace about this when we were looking at routings through the downtown areas in general, and they did want to keep the shelter. The good part about this though is it is just a concrete pad, and some of these are just bolted and affixed to it. So it is something that if you wanted to come back at a different point and they want to take it off and put something fresh, it's possible to do without actually ripping up the majority of our streets.
Or if we found a funding source.
I wonder. I haven't talked to Pace about this because your shelter structurally is in pretty decent shape. I wonder if it could just take a coat of paint and some window treatments. I mean, if there's a way to treat the surface in such a way that makes it look more interesting.
If we do
It's
it, we
the
should get a
bubble
nice.
top.
What are those ones from France? I keep forgetting the name. Is it Deco?
Oh, JC Deco?
Yeah.
That's like an advertising company in Chicago that contracts with the city to
Oh, you're
provide
kidding me.
advertising on their shelters. And so you have to kind of contract with them because then they have advertisers that go
Well,
on.
we don't want any part
You
of
don't need that, but there are other just plain old shelter companies that will provide, really nice things with color and cutouts and great stuff.
Still look at it.
So
Yeah.
was one of the ideas maybe just paint that green? As
It's a good point, John.
tied into the bollards a little bit or something?
And that big sign that's sitting right next to it too.
Right. Just you gotta be careful when you paint, obviously. You don't want this thing to peel. You gotta use the right paint and prep.
I didn't want to open Pandora's box. I just wanted
Right.
to call out to everybody's attention
Yeah,
that
I
we're
mean,
doing all this
I think
beautiful
we
work.
could, staff
That
could
was
reach out to
exactly
Pace and talk about what kind of improvements cosmetically we might be able to do with them and see if there's
Well, there's a shelter up in Hubbard Woods too, right?
there's
So we've got Hubbard Woods, we've got
one right by the library.
our friends down south at Green Bay.
So one at the library right here?
No, was there
Oh,
one at the
yeah.
library
That's
too?
right.
Right there.
So we probably have a total of 6 or 7 in town.
Down by New Trier.
But yeah, to Bob's
Where's
point,
the
I'm
one
not
in
sure,
Harvard Woods?
we have other ones, I'm not sure if we really need one there. Do we, I mean, I know they wanna keep it there, but is that their call or
I've
our
seen
call?
I don't know I don't know if I can answer that question right now.
Maybe do heaters. We'd have to find out. I don't know
Okay.
tonight.
Oh,
I don't want to.
I get it,
I don't
I
wanna
get the
say
one,
one.
I get the one by Washburn, I get the one
Yeah.
by, other places.
Where's the one in Hubbard Woods?
I think isn't it right next adjacent to the train station? Maybe I'm just misremembering.
Is this the one by
Glencoe?
Scott?
I thought there was one up there.
Further north, right?
Yeah, I think it's at the north end by Scott.
On the west side.
Oh,
I think
I
it's
think
up-
that's
I think it's up
Glencoe.
there.
There's
On
a
the south
wood
side
one.
would be ours.
There was one up there.
It doesn't matter.
so, well, I'm sorry to digress, but, okay, any other questions or comments for Jody or Jim?
So Jim, what's the project starts on July 10th? What
Correct.
would be the street, what would you anticipate to be the street closure timing and so on?
Beginning July 10th.
Until, for how long?
Well, similar to other ones, we would get the water main installed first, reopen the roadway while we worked on the north side. So
Okay.
we'd be working in those parking stalls. So similar to like when we worked on Lincoln Avenue, the equipment would be in the parking stall, so parking would be eliminated on the north side while we're doing work, but the road would be traversable. And then the water main would continue on, and then once we finish those streetscape items, we would drop back and resurface from Lincoln to Maple, or some logical termini where we're not beating the road back up again.
So driving access would be open
Correct.
throughout this?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the condition of that water main relative to what was on Lincoln? Do we know?
Yeah, it's on Brian's, it's in his top 10 priority water.
But I mean,
mains.
is it going to be difficult to extract and kind of like Lincoln
Oh, in
was?
terms of Lincoln, I
Oh.
don't think that one is concrete.
No, it's
encased.
no, it's a smaller water main than the other one that was on Lincoln. He's putting back a 12. It's a straight tie-in. It's straight
Okay.
ductile iron.
It's
Okay,
not
good.
Not
Yeah.
the complexity we had before.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
No more swimming pools.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, okay. There's no public, so there obviously won't be any public comment this evening. Any last parting thoughts here? Seeing none?
Is the pricing, we talked about the pricing, I think, at budget. Is this right
Yeah,
in
we're
keeping, and you feel comfortable with that $1,000,003?
Yeah, the engineer's estimate right now is right in line with what we had budgeted. Again, because of the volatility, I hate to say we're over, we're under right now.
Yeah.
We're under where we need to be is
Okay.
right there. And so depending on what the market brings back to us, we'll have a better understanding when we present in February.
Is A-Lamp poised to bid on this?
They're interested in it, but they're interested in the street rehab too, so it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Bundling it with a bigger project.
Right, yeah.
Right, it's got some attractiveness to
The
it.
Yeah,
key
but
thing is
we-
getting it out to bid now.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Otherwise, we're gonna be like we were with.
When will it be ready for bid?
We're
This
hoping
week.
to get the bid out by the end of this week. is
Oh,
what we're
great,
shooting for.
good,
Yeah,
great.
if, again, we're just looking, we need direction from council, that the final design meets, everybody's okay with it, so we can move forward with finalizing the bid doc. We'll go out to bid. We'll also be, looking to seek competitive bids for the long lead time items based on the final design that we have, and then we'll come back February 7th, and present both the street rehab contract and the streetscape contract at the same time.
Great.
That's our goal.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Jody.
it.
very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Good seeing you. Okay, item number 9, old business, there is none. Item 10, new business, there is none. I have some appointments this evening. The first one is I'd like to appoint Thomas N. Tebow to a full term on the Firefighters Pension Board. His term will expire on January 3rd, 2026. May I have a motion to appoint Mr. Tebow II to the Firefighters Pension Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Excuse me. Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Squirt?
Yes.
That one carries. Thank you. Appoint Megan Bauman to a full term on the Firefighters Pension Board. Her term will expire on January 3rd, 2026. May I have a motion to appoint Megan Bauman to the Firefighters Pension Board?
So moved.
And second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Squirt?
Yes.
That one carries, thank you. And then, lastly, I would like to reappoint Meg Benson to a 3-year term on the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, and her term will expire on January 21st, 2026. May I have a motion to reappoint Margaret Benson to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Squirt?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Thank you, that one carries. Okay, item 12 is closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing the compensation of specific employees of the village pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act and collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees pursuant to 2C2 of the Open Meetings Act, and approval of closed session minutes pursuant to 2C21 of the Open Meetings Act, and to adjourn the open meeting automatically and immediately upon the conclusion of the closed session without the conduct of any further business or comments.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
That motion carries. Right, that's good. Oh, good, I won't blame you then. All right, was that carries then? Yeah, really. Closed session.
Phase 6.